Jimmy Butler, he's a very interesting player to me.
He's like, oh, shoot, I don't know where to go with the ball because I haven't been able to think.
It was a great series. Game 4 was one of the best games I've ever watched in my entire life. Now LeBron's a 4-time champion, and Anthony Davis gets his first.
It's unacceptable. So happy when the Astros lost because it would definitely be a 2020 thing.
Yeah, I was impressed by their game. Braden Point, Andre Palat, Nikita Kucherov, that was the best line in the playoffs, no doubt.
Stay undefeated when they face the mighty Cowboys with Garrett Gilbert.
Hey everyone, I'm Jared Sandler, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by the man that is, I would say, very fortunate in this department, but a little bit less fortunate given that Olmark was traded. Correct?
Yeah, but I think Jeremy Swayman is the future. I really do appreciate Olmark for all he did 2 years ago when he won the Vezina. That was one of the most amazing goaltending seasons I've ever seen, along with one of the greatest teams or the best team in regular season history. But this question comes up to mind because I can think of a couple instances where this didn't really happen. I mean, Adin Hill, when the Knights won, yes, he was good during the playoffs, but before that, he really wasn't really known as a great goaltender. This year, with there was Stuart Skinner. Skinner, they go on a long run. Skinner, I was very against Skinner as a good goaltender. I did not think he was a stellar guy in that department, but he did enough for them to get all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. So the question really is, do we think that you need a good goaltender to make a run, or is it somehow just hope that your goaltender gets hot?
So I would say yes. You mentioned Adin Hill and Stuart Skinner. I would say they were playing well when their team went far. Skinner had that stat with Game 3 and 5. He started to settle in. But if you're building a team, and during the offseason now, as we're in this is a good question to have, is do you want to bank on, okay, I have a good goalie, and they can just get even better. But in the NHL, especially the playoffs, you want a good goalie if you want to be competitive. That's what we've seen Edmonton do. They got lucky with Stuart Skinner playing well, but they would spend tons of money. I'm trying to remember who they paid for.
Mike Smith? Oh, no. You're thinking of he played for the Maple Leafs. Jack Campbell?
Yes, Jack Campbell.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is not that a goalie doesn't need to play good for you to make a run. I'm saying, do you need a good goalie? I don't think Adin Hill, before he went on that run, was considered a good goaltender. I don't think Stuart Skinner, especially the season he had. I still don't think he's that great of a goaltender. So the question is not that you don't need good goaltending. It's, do you need a good goaltender? Or do you just pray that he gets hot at some point? I would say the same thing with Anton Khudobin with the Stars. Khudobin had been okay, but then he just became a top 5 goaltender in the league for the entire playoffs. So
and then he went back down.
Because that's who he was.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you don't need good goaltending. That's not the question. The question is, do you need a good goaltender? Or do you just need to hope that he plays like a great goaltender for 4 rounds?
I'm going to say you need a good goaltender because you can hope all you want. But in the percentage, in my view of as a GM, is you want to have the likeliest percentage in analytics wise of our team can make it. I don't want to, you do need to get lucky, but you don't want to me, you don't want to have to get lucky with your goaltender. It's great when that happens, but to me, you need a good goaltender because you want to bank on, okay, I have a good goaltender. And this is a guy that has delivered consistently. Now that is so tough to get with a goaltender because we saw with Jack Campbell signing. I think he had a great postseason, and then the Oilers are like, we need that. Pay him whatever he wants, and that did not work out. We saw it with the Stars with Anton Khudobin. They gave him a huge contract because they're like, if you find that guy, I think you can equate goalies in NHL similar to quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yes. In a way, yes. Now they don't have as much control as quarterbacks. But I don't know how to say this. They're just as important, but they have less control.
Yes.
If that makes sense. You can't score a goal. I mean, unless you're Linus Hallmark, who did score a goal. But it'd be an empty netter in a game that you've already won. So your impact is only felt on one side. With a quarterback, I think you can still affect your defense by just being a great presence. Like, goalies are not really those, like, team leader types because it's so different than every other position. And while the quarterback's definitely different, those guys are more leaders that you're leading your defense on than it is goalie. Because I feel like you lead with offense. I feel like your leaders are normally offensive. Like, we talk about the NBA. That's why I think all the star players, like a Trae Young, who's not good on defense, is still like a leader on his team because he's so good on offense. So, but I should say, goalies are just as important as QBs. You need good goaltending. But you don't necessarily need a good goaltender, at least to go far in one playoff round. Because, I mean, we've seen it with QBs too. Nick Foles. I think Nick Foles is the Anton Hudobin. It's the star goaltender gets hurt, Ben Bishop. The star quarterback gets hurt, Carson Wentz, because he was a star that year. He was going to be the MVP. And then they just go on a run. Both teams were green. I mean, it's the only difference was that one won and one didn't. And if you think about it, the Stars won game one. So, I mean, it's very similar story, even though, again, the Stars didn't win the Cup that year. But it is, I think, very comparable, those two positions.
Yes, I like how you compared Nick Foles and kind of that run, and that was a good comparison. I would say how I view it is the value for these type of guys. Just look at the contract for a quarterback, no matter what. Once he has a good season, look at Daniel Jones. He got $25 million. To me, that shows the value of there are very few good goaltenders, and even slower, great goaltenders. Now, the problem is guys are looking for that guy. To me, if I'm a GM, I'm going to go, okay, having a good goaltender just increases my odds. So that's why I want a good goaltender. I'm willing to pay whatever and do whatever to find it, because that's going to help me in playoffs. Of course, you need scoring. We saw this with the Stars. They had a good goaltender in Jake Ottinger, but other things didn't happen. However, you can notice when the goalie isn't playing well, and that hurts your team because they have such an impact on the game defensively. I understand your point about leaders, and I can't even name the last captain that was a goaltender.
Technically speaking, they can be a captain. You'll never see it. I guess technically, really, the last captain I could think of is like a what's his name? I'm stupid. I'm extremely stupid. Play for the Canucks. Play for the Panthers. He was the starting goalie for the Vancouver Canucks whenever they went to the Stanley Cup final. Why am I? I can see his face. I can see everything.
Was it Dirt? Nope.
No. In 2011, they went to the Stanley Cup final. Their starting goaltender was who? Luongo, Roberto Luongo. There we go.
Yep.
It was going to come to me eventually just by thinking about it. But he was really a captain, but not a captain at the same time. Him, especially with the Panthers as well, was a captain, not a captain. So it's not a position you really want to be a captain. Like, it's very much like soccer, where your captain's really the only one that can really argue with the refs and not get any sort of penalty. That's the same thing in hockey. You're not supposed to be talking to the refs unless you're the captain. The captain can go cry as much as he wants to the refs without really any penalty. It would have to be drastic what he's saying to the refs to get any sort of penalty. But that's why he's the captain. And they don't really want the goalie skating all the way down the ice to go talk to the ref. So, yeah, you do have that kind of lack. And there's usually not even an assistant captain that is, or it's really an associate captain that is or alternate captain that is a goalie as well. So, because those are the guys that can also, the reason why you have alternate captain is so if the captain isn't on the ice, one of your alternate captains can go talk to the refs. That's the whole point of the whole season ace things. And people were ever confused about that. That's a good little rant if you didn't really know hockey all that well. But goalies are so important, but they don't lead. in they. I mean, I guess they can lead in the locker room. It's just really hard for them to lead this charge on the ice, and it's weird when we see one of these guys that isn't that great, but has a good run, and then the team kind of rallies around them playing wise. Like they'll start scoring more goals and playing better because they have confidence behind them. I think that's why the Montreal Canadiens in 2021 went so far. It's Carey Price was standing on his head, and now Carey Price is far from a bad goalie. He's one of the best goalies of the generation. He won an MVP as a goalie. That doesn't really happen all that often. But you're just so good that the team's like, we can do anything. We don't have to worry about making mistakes. I think when you have a bad goalie, you're worried about making mistakes more than actually attacking. So a goalie playing well in the playoffs is extremely, extremely important. But I still don't know. I mean, we've seen guys like Aiden Hill, Stuart Skinner, Anton Hudobin that have not been great goalies, and they go on runs. So I don't know what the answer to this question is. I'm kind of just asking for your opinion on it because I don't really have a clear-cut one. Because I've been on teams where we haven't had the greatest goalie, and then he gets hot, and we rally around him just as much as we would around the great goalie. It's based on how you're playing recently almost. We forget about all those other bad times.
Yeah, I understand that. And it is, to me, it's just easy to be like, okay, I have a good goalie. So that's my opinion. I believe you need a good goaltender just because it's less likely that you have goaltending is your option. It can still be wrong. We saw what happened to Hellebuck this year, and he is a good goaltender, but the Avalanche just were able to score so much on him. So what is your right now? What would you do? If you're building a team.
It's two options, in my opinion. I don't think there's one clear answer here. It's either you bank on one side and go with a young goalie, unproven, and not spend much cap space on it, or you go all in on a Swayman, on a Hellebuck, on any one of those like big guys. I don't like the middle. I don't like the 20 to 14 range where it's like they're good, but they also can be very bad. So, or really, outside the top 10, I'm really hesitant. I'd either go young route where we're not spending as much cap space so we can really get a good defense to help bring our goalie confidence. There's less shots on net when you get a good defense. And your offense will have more cap space dedicated to that so your team can be better around your goalie. Or go all in on a very, very established UC Saros type goalie that can stand on his head. I think it's one of those two. I don't like the middle. I think I could see both arguments because spending a lot on goalie takes away from the guys in front of him, so it can make that goalie not play worse, but you can still allow a lot of goals because he's taking so many high leverage chances that he's not a god. He's not perfect. He's going to make mistakes. And so no matter how good he is, and that's not his fault, it's the team around him's fault. And on the other end of the spectrum, I can see how it can be bad because one good chance and it's a goal, potentially. But the least amount of good chances you give up, the least amount of goals you could allow. But you also may allow some really bad goals. It shouldn't be a goal ever. So both sides have their weaknesses, but both sides definitely have their positives. I could see either way. I'm totally fine building a team either way. I don't like the middle ground because I feel like the middle ground, you're spending enough money on goalies to kind of lower the ceiling on your offensive abilities unless you have a Connor McDavid. But it also doesn't allow you to have a great goalie. Like you're spending enough money on to kind of cap how much you can spend on the rest of the players, but you also don't have a great goaltender. You have a good one. And good, like when we're talking about Stuart Skinner was playing extremely, extremely well. Aiden Hill was standing on his head. Like you need a goalie to be extremely, extremely good, not just okay come playoff time. It's just which side do you bank on? I can see either way. What's your opinion on it? Which one of those two fields do you lean more towards?
I think I would go young route of be like, okay, let me draft and develop this guy. We've seen that. I would say the Stars did that. And I'm trying to see the Lightning. Because they had Bishop and then they transitioned to
Vasilevsky,
who was drafted by them. And to me, that's what makes it, that discussion that you just had just reminds me so much about the quarterback debate of like, okay, do I pay this guy? Or
it's very similar in that aspect. I think when I'm talking about,
you don't want to be the middle ground, which is what I fall into a lot of teams. I would say the Cowboys are in that aspect of they're in the middle ground.
Yeah, I do think it's extremely important like even if you're taking flyers on 7th round or 6th rounders, just getting a young guy in there that's unproven, just trying to get him to become something. Because if you ever do match it, I mean, this is the most football argument of all time. When I say this, you're gonna be like, that's an NFL argument. But you get a young guy, a guy on a 5th round, 6th round, 7th round. They play their college days out. We drafted him 2 years ago. Then we bring him in because they usually don't come in immediately. So that's the not football side. But once he comes in, his first year he's okay, and then he becomes really good. And you're paying him on the rookie contract while he's a top 10 now goaltender because we've molded him into this type of guy. So you're paying all of your defenders, all of your offensive players like top talent while also having a rookie level goaltender who is a top 10. So you're doing both. It's really hard. It doesn't normally happen, but when it does, you win titles. That's just what happens. I can think of a couple examples that kind of think about that, but you look like you want to say something, so I'll let you say first.
Yeah, I would say so. Your 2 ideas to me answer the question in this video of a good goaltending is necessary because you're banking on getting a good goaltender.
But you're not guaranteed. Like when you sign those young guys, you don't know they're good. That's what I mean by good goaltender. You don't know that yet. When you're banking on a 5th round, 6th round, 7th round pick, a guy that you're just trying to mold into a good goalie, you don't necessarily know if they're going to be that. You're kind of just, again,
goal. To me, that's the goal is I want a good goaltender and I'm going to achieve it through this way.
You always want a good goaltender, right? But I'm saying, but that's my point is that you need good goaltending. You always want your goalie to play well, but do you need a guy that's going to be a star to win titles? I would say no, because we saw that with Aiden Hill. We saw that. I mean, Hudobin was still amazing that entire final series. It wasn't his fault. He wasn't the reason why they lost. I think Stuart Skinner was not the reason why the Oilers lost this year. So do you really need that great player in that position to do it?
I'm going to say yes.
It's close. I could see either side of it. I'm kind of looking up some guys. I'm thinking of like rookie deals, cheap deals that I think became something. What comes to my head first, the first guy I searched up was Jonathan Quick. Jonathan Quick was a 3rd round pick. He wasn't supposed to be a great guy, but he was. I mean, when they won in 2012, they were only paying him, Kevin, $995,000. Like, I know that the salary cap hasn't gone up, but less than $1 million for the best goalie in the league in 2012. That is they won a title. Like that's just a championship. Oh, not guaranteed, but your odds. Imagine again a quarterback getting paid. It wouldn't be $995,000, but just imagine $5 million, 10, like $8 million, $10 million even for your star. Like I'm talking the best QB in the league or a top 5 QB in the league. Like that's just a recipe for a title, and that's what we can see whenever you go for a really young guy and he becomes really good. Because yes, when they won in 2014, Jonathan Quick was paid $7 million. Like right after they won that title, he's paid $7 million. So yes, they still won another title in 2014, but they didn't win one after. So it's kind of that year when they won and he was paid less than $1 million. It's just a recipe for titles. I'm more on that side than I am on the other. I'm more on the trying to bank on a 3rd round pick that may become something. Pay him after he proves it than going for a 1st round goalie that we're going to have to pay a lot initially and yada, yada, yada. I mean, this is just literally a QB debate at this point. Yeah. But it's so you can see how similar it is.
Yeah, I can see. And to me, I would go with the young guy route. But no matter what, my goal is for every season, I want to have a good goaltender that can elevate to that great spot each season. And I think the easiest way to do that would be in the draft, but you could always get tricky. A guy opens up, but we'll have to see, because I don't like banking on such an important position. Be like, okay, I hope I get like a run from this guy.
Well, I think that's kind of when you draft the 3rd round guy, when you're drafting 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, you kind of are banking on it though. You're kind of like, I hope this guy's really good. I really hope this guy's good. And that's what happens here. Like I'm willing to take that chance. That's why I think that you and I are a little bit different. Like you want to take the young guy, sure, but there's no guarantee it's a good goalie, right? There's no guarantee. Look, I'm going to say Dak. And while Dak is a 4th round pick, the fact that Dak was as good as he was out of his draft spot is still remarkable, correct? Even though he hasn't been as great as maybe Cowboys fans would have wanted at this point. Yeah, the odds of him being what he was or what he is from his draft position is remarkable, correct?
Yeah, it's remarkable. And they just didn't take advantage of that.
Yeah, so the point is that now they did have Romo, and Romo got hurt, and certain things had to happen for that kind of to work out, but they didn't know that Dak was going to be a good quarterback. It could have been that the Cowboys were just terrible that year, and like every other Romo year, he got hurt. Every other Romo year. So you're taking your chances. You're taking your flyers, and sometimes it's a Dak. Sometimes it's a Brady. Sometimes it's a Jonathan Quick. I'm willing to take the chance and just be like, let's try it out instead of paying a guy the mid-level.
To me, that's where I see the question of like, I want a consistently good goalie, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get that. I don't want to just sign a backup goalie, and be like, okay, he can be my starter and he can get hot. To me, I'm going to be like, I want a consistent goalie.
Do you feel the same about QBs, though? Are you about paying your QB a lot of money? Because that's what you're going to have to do. If you're getting a consistently good goalie, consistently great goalie, top 10 goalie, those are some of the most highest paid players in the league.
Yeah, and I'm willing to do that because of that. And that's with quarterbacks. However, with the goalies, it's a razor-thin line just like quarterbacks. It's a razor-thin line of, is this guy good, but fails in the playoffs in that kind of aspect. That's where I would go to. It's a little bit different because if a goalie doesn't deliver in the playoffs, how do you characterize that goalie?
If a goalie does not perform well in the playoffs consistently, I think he's not a good goalie.
Yeah, that's why I would say he's not a good goalie. So he wouldn't fit into that criteria. So I wouldn't want to pay that guy.
I get what you're saying, but also I feel like goalies can play well in one series, and then you pay them because they play well in one series, and then be bad for the rest of the time. So it's not a perfect science either way.
Yeah, that's why it's so difficult to find a goalie that continues.
And that's why there's two camps on the spectrum. And some people do like that mid-level goalie. I'm not one of them, but I think it's better just to commit on the paying the goalie a ton of money or paying the young guy less than $1 million and just seeing what happens.
Yeah, I agree. So that's all we got. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Any final thoughts?
Nope.
All right. We appreciate you listening. Let us know your thoughts, and make sure you're staying up to date with our Instagram, Twitter, and all that. The links are in the description of the YouTube channel. But we appreciate you listening, and keep following us for more.